Oh, you can call him, but just don't call him Junior, though. Here's your look at the Hasbro Indiana Jones Adventure Series Build an Artifact, Indiana Jones Last Crusade, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones races against the forces of evil to find the Holy Grail and keep it from falling into the wrong hands. Kids and collectors alike can imagine the action and adventure of Indiana Jones with figures from the Indiana Jones Adventure series. While Indy follows the religious footprints leading him to the Fountain of Youth, we're going to go ahead and grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. This will be the start of the Last Crusade Build an Artifact wave, although it's really a little questionable. Of course, they're going to be throwing in there some Dial of Destiny figures, whether you like it or not. Indiana Jones, though, stands about 6¼ inches in height. He does. Or the figure's going to be about 16 centimeters tall. Let's now bring in a couple of other Indiana Jones figures for comparison's sake. Here's what the Last Crusade Indiana Jones looks like with the Temple of Doom Indiana Jones. And no, you're not seeing double. Here's what the figure as well looks like with the Cairo Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Here's what Indiana Jones looks like with old, sad Indiana Jones, who just wants to stay in the past. And here's as well what the figure looks like with hypnotized Indiana Jones, also from Temple of Doom. So with this wave, this is the Build an Artifact wave that will have the tabletop that has all the different chalices, and you have to choose wisely, which is the Cup of Christ. Part of that way, at least along the way, we're going to be building the table, but I guess just before doing that, this particular Indiana Jones comes, I guess, with the bottoms of the legs. It comes actually in 3 parts, and I'm not really quite sure how these all parts come together. My guess is you're going to kind of line everything up like this. This is, I guess, supposed to be like this, right? Kind of looks more like a planter's pot than anything else. And then you have this piece. Now, if you were to look at this piece, there's kind of a groove of plastic right here, and there's sort of a canal of plastic right here. I would imagine it fits like this, but I don't think it's supposed to fit like that on top. So my guess is, and all of this I'm sure will be revealed eventually when we finish building the table, is supposed to look like that. This is supposed to snap down. I don't want to start committing to that just in case I decide wrong. I don't want to be like that, choosing the wrong cup, because we all know how well that worked out for everybody. So I'm going to leave it as it is right now. You basically get 3 pieces. We're going to make some, hopefully, progress as we continue the rest of these reviews. For the figures accessories, many of these are things that we've already seen with Indiana Jones from before. I suppose one thing that is a little bit different this time around is you get an MP40 submachine gun. The machine gun itself is made of fairly soft plastic. Certainly something that Indiana Jones can carry around with it. I think actually the gun itself in the movie is a little bit different than what we get right here. I don't know, maybe if it was a licensing issue that Hasbro had to change the design a bit from the gun. It's molded here, needless to say, in all black plastic, and it can be fit in Indiana's hand. He already has the dedicated hand for that. And if you wanted to, of course, you can bend the elbow and have Indiana Jones holding the bottom stalk of it like this, or you can also have him holding this area as well. It's one way, again, to differentiate this figure, I suppose, from all the Indies from before with all the same accessories as before. Those similar accessories, by the way, I'm going to put the figure down here for a second, bear with me. Those similar accessories, in fact, were his pistol. I'm sure by now how many times have we gotten this pistol. I'm just going to reach off to the side and bring in the one that we just recently had a look at from Cairo Indiana Jones. Is it the exact same pistol? Would you also believe it stores in the same place? What? It does? Wait, what? It does. It stores actually just on the side holster here. But if you wanted to, of course, you can also put the pistol in his hand. It works the same way. Hands, hey, do that. But what you can do, though, is on the side, just underneath his jacket, he has himself a little holster. The holster is kind of hard to kind of get to because, first of all, you got the jacket in the way this time around. But you just want to take the pistol and fold it down as best as you can get it. Now, good luck trying to get the flap properly over. You may get the flap there, but then you got this little connecting piece that's supposed to plug into this hole, and it never works properly for me. If it does work successfully for you, then congratulations. Virtual star for you. All joking aside, though, I really have had a hard time ever really getting this flap to stay shut. I've actually had a better time, an easier time, to get the whip in place, because the figure comes included with 2 variations of the whip. One that's already rolled up, and that's just a case of plugging this, take the little strap piece, plugging it in place. That always seems to stay. Never seems to be the case with the gun, though. And then, of course, most Indiana Jones figures tend to always come included with an extended version of the whip, and this Indiana Jones also has that as well. It's molded in kind of, I guess what you would call it, like a light chocolate colored brown. And this, again, can fit also in his hand, or it can also fit in this hand also as well. Works either way. I'm doing this, by the way, also just to show you guys, I'm not making this up. It does fit into either one of his hands. Those are all the accessories that come included with Indiana Jones. Nothing really new necessarily other than the submachine gun. But I guess really Indiana Jones, he doesn't necessarily need to come with a whole lot. Getting a closer look at the head sculpt, I'm not sure I would say I love the head sculpt. Something certainly seems off about it. He seems, first of all, like he's really confused. It could also just be the way they've painted it. In a way, it kind of looks like an old Liam Neeson as well. One thing I was finding kind of funny about this particular version of Indiana Jones is that his hat was posable, in that you can actually move his hat down, up. You can also kind of move it back and forth as well. Just want to make sure while you're doing that, you're not popping the head off in the process. I kept asking myself, well, if I can move it back and forth like this, because I think out of the packaging it was a little higher than this, but you can actually technically move it further down if you wanted to. I kept asking myself, well, if I can do that, surely I should be able to even take the fedora off. Well, you can. What you'll see underneath, though, is not probably something you'll want to see. And that is that the head sculpt, I can actually now take this off. The head sculpt actually sits. Why am I having such a hard time doing this? I was having no real hard. There we go. Underneath it, it's a really weird concoction. First of all, you get bald Indiana. They didn't even take the time to paint the top. I mean, obviously, this is the paint part of the figure that you'd never really see anyways. But he's got this sort of weird handle on the top of him, almost as if somebody would be curling Indiana Jones's head across ice. What essentially it is it slots in place here. I don't know why they would have gone as the route that they did, because when you're plugging this back in place, you want to make sure that this area lines up to the groove, plugging it back in. And I guess that's supposed to be the thing that gives them the posability. But wouldn't it have just been simply easier to have the fedora removable? I mean, then I could easily have just moved the fedora further down if I wanted to. I could have moved it further up. Why would they have put this weird sort of thing on the top of his head? It makes no sense to me. What also doesn't make any sense to me is the wear that they've added to the jacket and the hat. It doesn't look as bad on the jacket. It looks certainly a lot worse when it comes to the hat itself. They've dry brushed a lighter coloring of brown over top of the fedora. But I feel like they've added way too much, especially when you look at the back of it, and there's no wear at all to the hat to be found. It's only really in the front. It's just a really weird place to put it only here and leave the back completely clean. Now, the jacket has wear, and I like the way they've done this. They've worn away the top and the shoulders, and they've worn away a few little areas like around the sides of the shoulders here. The bottom of the jacket has places that natural wear and tear would develop on a jacket, because again, you're just throwing this thing around. But the hat, I guess specifically, Indiana Jones just continues to grab the hat from the front, and maybe he's always just correcting it, that the leather has found its way, or whatever material the fedora would have been made out of, would have been more only worn away from the front. Does that make any sense at all? Apparently it does. So the head sculpt is just okay for me. It looks, again, more like just sad Indiana Jones. This guy really should belong in Dial of Destiny. I couldn't even think of the name. Dial of Destiny, than maybe Last Crusade. Maybe he's so bummed out by the idea he's got to spend his days fighting bad guys along with his dad. And his dad, is just chasing around ducks all the time. As for the rest of the outfit, now, this Indiana Jones does have the shirt and tie. I was never really a big fan of the fact that Indiana Jones had a tie. I just prefer really the shirt myself. But like it is in the movie, he does have himself the tie. The tie is actually a separate piece. You can see right there. And then he's also got himself the side pack that basically goes over top of it. You'll find yourself fiddling around with this frequently, because literally he has like the shirt, he has the tie, then he's got the pack over top of that, then he's got the jacket over top of that. As the few times I've already peeled this away, you can kind of see he's basically got just brown molded arms underneath. But again, like, you're really not going to be seeing it much of all. The thing you're probably going to see a lot, though, is the fact there's something off about his torso. If you have it angled far enough down, it doesn't look as noticeable, I've noticed, at least for me. But if you bring the torso back, it looks like his body is detaching from the lower half. Like, there's this weird awkwardness right here where it looks like it's a lot longer than it needed to be. Like, if anything, the waist, I feel, should have been like right here instead of all this excessive shirt that he has instead. Of course, the lower half of his legs seem to be pretty much standard Indiana Jones. So, like, just recently, in fact, we had a look at the Last Crusade Indiana Jones. I'll bring him in. It looks to be the same use of leg molds. It seems also as well that they use the same belt. And also as well, the shoes are identical between the two. And again, I can't fault Hasbro for using parts if they can use them over and over again, if it means we get new Indiana Jones. But there's a few little inconsistencies to this particular figure that really make me love it, or really resist me from loving it as much as I really should. The biggest one really being the fact that his face just seems a little off for my liking. And again, like his shirt, I just don't know. It looks a little too long as well. For the figure's articulation, but going back to his head sculpt here, it rotates all the way around via ball joint. It does look up, it looks down, and you can also move it back and forth as well. As for the arms come out as most Indiana Jones cases come. I mean, he brings those arms out 90 degrees, but again, you can rotate them also all the way around. Now, the figure also has only just a single hinge in the elbow, but always the case, it also allows the form to rotate back and forth, and also rotate also all the way around. And then when you get to the waist, so essentially like this part, in other earlier Indiana Jones, normally where he would have had a shirt, this top section would have been its own dedicated ball joint, as I'm kind of swiping my fingers across this. And then he would have had a ball joint down here as well. For reasons unknown, because he has a shirt, I guess, they decide just to do away with the upper torso articulation. So he really only has it down below here. But I keep feeling like as I'm moving this figure around, I keep wanting to push this guy further down than what he is. And that's as far down as he's going to go. So it's just, yeah, makes no sense. Figure does have, like I said, a ball joint, so you can really freely move it around. The legs do split out. They're once again on ball joints. You can take those legs and move forward and move them back. About 3/4 of the way up the thigh, there's a swivel cut, so you can rotate the leg all the way around. Indy only possesses a single hinge in his knee, but it allows at least the lower leg to rotate back and forth. And once again, he does have the ankle articulation up and down and back and forth this way as well. It's not a perfect Indy. I don't think it's a perfect Indy, and I feel like maybe, if anything, the biggest detriment to this specific review is the fact I did look at the Last Crusade, not the Last Crusade, I looked at the Raiders of the Lost Ark Cairo Indiana Jones just prior to actually looking at this one. That Cairo Indiana Jones was a far superior Indy. No, I mean, just to bring him in for comparison's sake, I mean, obviously two completely different movie Indies. One thing also just about the two is, like, looking at the two figures, like his torso, it just draws more attention to the fact, maybe it's just the fact that because the fact that this Indiana Jones does have the shirt that's untucked, maybe it's hiding some of the construction maybe for Indiana Jones, that if not for that, maybe I would even notice that this one also has a longer torso. But there's something really off that's throwing me off when it comes to this particular Indiana Jones. Something about the way they've done the shirt just makes me keep feeling like I want to push him further together. It's not as good as Indiana Jones, but if that's the only Indiana Jones we're going to get from The Last Crusade, then I guess it's going to have to do. Like with Indiana Jones trying to track down his artifact, he always comes across the occasional pitfall, and I feel like on our journey to get to The Last Crusade and the Cup of Christ, we've hit a bit of a pitfall with The Last Crusade Indiana Jones, and it shouldn't really be the case. He's the main star of this movie, and yet I feel like his figure sort of undelivers a bit. A head sculpt that just is passable as an Indiana Jones, a fedora that seems heavily weathered for no reasons at all, and he just has like a weird long torso for no apparent reasons whatsoever. I would put him a little bit more closer, I think, in the Dial of Destiny category of Indiana Jones, and less in the same field as maybe like Raiders of the Lost Ark Cairo Indiana Jones, which set the bar, unfortunately, way too high, and maybe it was a detriment to do the review right after that Cairo Indiana, because I already had the expectation pretty high after looking at that figure, that this Indiana comes up a little bit short. Short on also accessories, too, other than really the submachine gun. Indiana Jones is basically plagued with the same accessories as packed with all the other Indies, and that may not necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, anybody who just wants a whip with Indiana Jones gets two, and he also gets his trusty pistol as well. If anything, he gets one extra gun. I guess that's not bad. But why did they have to attach the fedora the way that they did? They attached it in such a way that it gives him articulation, but if you're going to be making the effort to do that, wouldn't it have just been easier to have a removable hat in the first place? I know it means he would have had hat head underneath the hat, but at the very least, I mean, why give him this weird-looking thing he's got on the top of his head? And it draws even more to the fact that they only painted the sides of his hair. Oh, Indiana Jones, you should never have your hat removed. But what do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And have you been collecting any of the artifact waves, whether it be this one, whether it be the Ark wave we looked at from Raiders of the Lost Ark? Earlier than that, it was also the stone artifacts from Temple of Doom. Of course, we're only just now starting the reviews here of the Temple of the Last Crusade. I'm not talking about Temple of Doom, the Last Crusade artifact wave. So we only really have to have a planner's pot to start our journeys with. Of course, that will be progressing as we look at the rest of the figures, not only from Last Crusade, But they are, unfortunately, I say as well, the Dial of Destiny, who has really no place at all in an artifact wave where you're building the Cup of Christ. Why are we dealing with the Dial of Destiny characters? They should have been in their own standalone reviews. They should have been their standalone waves. I'm sure I'm going to be talking and an abundance of that as we have a look at the rest of the figures from this wave. If you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you're certainly on board for the rest of this rest of the reviews for the artifact wave, if you haven't already done so, please and thank you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and you're turning on the bell notification. And of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.